Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SimSeniors and welcome to Snetterton. Bit of a change of scenery tonight, as we've had quite a eclectic selection of rounds. We've been all around the world, from the US to the rest of Europe, with the likes of Germany, Belgium, France, the United States on a double. But we're bringing it back to the UK today, and next week as well, but we'll get to that later. As this circuit demands a lot of precision. It may be quite flat, but the sharper corners demand your full attention. Careful of the curbs. Let's go trackside. Let's see what these racers are up to. We're wasting absolutely zero time. My name is Ben Sapsford. Be your guide as we go through, and as we turn to the track. Let's see what these racers have in store. We're on board with Wayne Bowler as he gets things started off here. We just started qualifying, which means we've got 30 minutes on the docket and 10 minutes per class. For those who are new here, we have 3 tiers of drivers. You have bronze class with the red numbers, silver with the silver, and then gold with the grey driver numbers on your screens right here. So much to be looking forward to. And as we get ourselves rolling here, you can see some of the shots. As that is going to be the Ferrari trying to head its way into Agostini. Get a good exit out, best as one can. Try and keep things smooth and steady as we head through the next sector of the course. Really, you want to try and power out as much as you can. So you've got Oggies here, and then it's a larger, wider arc before powering down to the Bentley Straight. That's out of Williams Corner right there. Of course, good luck to all the drivers who are joining us on track today. We have 37 racers who are currently on the server. Let's see how this pans out. Got 10 plus bronze drivers currently out on the track. We're trying to get a time set. Bowler's going to be our initial benchmark. See how he can do, because he's 5th in the standings after penalties and drop rounds. But he does have a chance to make a bit of a statement here. Here's how much. They're out of Murray's and opening up the taps into 4th gear. So just getting into gear 5 by the end of the straightaway. That is going to be a 46.8. Not going to get matched by the others though for a moment, as there is 48s across the board. 48.4 from Morrison all the way to a 48.7 from Holmes. 49 flat from Peter Smith. Foxall comes across the line with a 47.9. Plenty of push from the drivers around the course. 47.5 coming from Craig Holmes, as the timing tower has refused to update. Let's give it a little bit of a forced bud update. There we go. See, here is Randy Zimmer completing his lap here. So out of corner him into Murray's. As things get settled for most of our drivers. Sean Murphin into 3rd with the 47.6 flat. What's Zimmer going to be able to do as he comes up and across the line? Looks like that was a no-go. That was an invalid lap. And no time will be set as a result. Meanwhile, 2nd position, you've got Daniel Grosch in the championship, but P7 is where he stands in qualifying. 48.4. He's going to have to make up at least a 2nd here if he wants any fighting chance at the good spots coming out of this one. Not going to be an easy time for him here. I think in particular going to be looking to try and make a lot of time through Sector 2. That's easily where the most technical part of the course is. But at the same time, the hairpin that is Montreal demands precision. Keeping the speed high. Trying to average around 170 to 180s. He goes around Bombhole and then Coram to finish the lap off. A little bit of a skate on the rear axle there as he tries to straighten out, get on the power as soon as he can. Coming up to the line, it's a 48.4 to beat as Grosch got it in the bag. It's a 48.6, no deal. A few more cars coming down. Peter Smith, 49 flat here, needs to get a solid improvement, and he does. 47.5. That's going to slingshot him all the way into 3rd place. Meanwhile, championship leader Alex North, 158 points. Quite a margin there, but not one that is ironclad, especially when drop rounds are considered. It's a 48.6 only. Minimal improvement from the Porsche. He might not be the best scenario for him, as he's got, say, 11th in the class so far. Sean Murphy's going to jump up a peg and get himself to a .497. That's enough for second place. But still, nobody has touched the 46 of Wayne Bowler here. Now, as he continues to push in his Ferrari, it looks like he is perfectly dialed for this one. I'm certainly a big fan of Snetterton. I've gained a new appreciation as of late for a lot of the smaller British circuits. Of course, everyone talks about Silverstone, but there is a lot more that there is. Say you've got, say, Brands Hatch, Snetterton, Alton Park, just to name a few of the bigger ones. And there's more tracks beyond that, especially when you look at multiple disciplines. So I've found a bit of a softer spot as of late for some of these UK tracks. But let's see what these drivers have in the tank then, as we're on board with Craig Holmes as he comes up to finish his lap. He's a 47.5, but there could be improvements on the cards for him. He just needs to link this lap together. For whatever reason, it seems like a few drivers, despite getting good times in practice, I mean, we've seen as low as the 46s, like low 46s from some of the bronze class, it's not connecting when it comes to race day. I mean, for example, here, Craig Holmes, he gets a 47.6. That's not the time improvement that he needs. Sean Murphy is going to continue to chip away a little bit more at his time, though. He's got a couple of tenths up as he comes up to the line, and a pretty decent final corner is going to land him squarely with the 47.2. No improvement on position, but enough improvement on time to solidify his P2 for the moment. Bit of pressure is starting to pile on those mid to lower pack runners in this class, though. You've got 90 seconds to get a lap down, at which point that is considered the end of your session. You finish the lap you're on, you make way for the likes of the number 12 car, as Linatus has wasted no time in jumping straight to the end of the pit lane, getting himself ready for his lap to come. So you can see a few more cars now making their way through just ahead. Stuart Holmes, P9 on the track. P15 in the standings with 55 points. So a good result here could lend him quite an improvement. Smoothly does it. Key thing here is being procedural with your inputs and being almost able to ease onto the throttle. Holmes, unfortunately, not able to connect it up on this one. Having a very rough final sector, and he's only going to land a 49.4. How's the rest of the field going to fare? Here is John Gabbett, jumps himself up to a 47.5. We've got a lot of drivers concentrated around the mid-47s, so the smallest of margins is enough to jump your time massively. Alex North gets himself up to P8, just sneaks under the qualifying threshold, so he's going to have one more go. Meanwhile, Sean Murphy come up to the line. He's going to be the second driver to break into the 46s with a .9. Still not enough to challenge on Bowler. In fact, Bowler might be pushing that envelope even further, 46.7, but unless he hemorrhages time in Sector 2, could be getting as good as a 46.4. Lost a little bit of time going out of Hamilton and into the Oggies. But we now see that time has elapsed, so a new set of cars has joined the fray. That's going to be the silver class, who we'll be switching gears to in just a moment. Rich Arscombe making his way down to the end of the Bentley straight, and then Sprundle and Nelson, the procedure, gradual left before a sharp right. You always got to tee yourself up right to the apex before switching and shaking your car straight into the apex of Nelson. Careful of the sausage curbs, though. These sausage curbs can bite around this circuit in particular. So here is Arscombe. Get out of the main cohort. A 47.5 to beat, really. What's he going to get? It's a 47.6, so it's not enough, but it's still a solid improvement. Greg Holmes was going purple, but unfortunately has dipped into the dirt just on the very last segment of the circuit. That's enough to put him in P2. Massive, solid improvement, but not enough to secure him the position he wanted. That P1 was on the cusp, and sadly couldn't quite get it today. So your bronze order has mostly been settled, but we still have 2 more classes, ladies and gentlemen. Lenatus leads the way. Jumping aboard with that Nismo. And we typically see around a second between groups, so I'll be expecting the silver class to average into the low 47s/high 46s. Maybe a peak time around the mid 46, because it looks like Bowler really did smash it out the park on his initial run. Sort of strike gold very early on in the session. Lenatus currently stands P3 in the Silver Championship, 138 points. He's only 3 points behind James Payton, and then a whole 15 points behind Derek Hall. So we'll see how those drivers get on. So you got Hall on track today. It's the number 14 McLaren there. And I've got to say, looking very sharp. Say the pink to purple fade. A very nice touch. Very good looking car. Then in P2, it is going to be James Payton. But I don't believe we have him on track. I cannot see. Oh, never mind. There he is. Here he is in his... Also going to be running in his McLaren. Very light blue, but with the pink contrast. It's very nicely. Going to be in the earlier stages of his outlap, whereas Lenatus and co. going to be out there pushing hard, trying to get their inaugural times on the boards here. Outlap's pretty much complete for the whole set. What's the first time going to be? Lenatus up to the line. It's going to be a 47.9 to start things off, but quickly challenged. O'Neill and Serrano, they're going to get themselves up into P4 and 6, with Hamby getting into P8 overall. 47.0, fastest time out of silver so far. It's a 48.4 for Derek Hall. It's going to be a very close tussle as Sean Julius is going to just pip Sean O'Neill, and then the rest of the field's going to follow suit around the mid 47s range. 47.032, fastest time of the silver so far. Here is Payton. Let's see what he's got here as he comes up to the line. Remember, it's a 47 flat to beat. It's going to be a 46.8 pretty much. And a beautiful opening lap for the McLaren. Pretty much matching, bar for bar, Wayne Bowler's initial lap. Seriously impressive stuff from this McLaren here. But session is young. We still have around 5 minutes, which equates to about 3 laps for these drivers here. And we're on board with Felix Wildner in his BMW. Repping the half and half style Pixel Pilots livery. So this kind of two-tone, it either works or it doesn't. And I can say, in this case, it definitely works. Find that with a bit of a digital camo effect, and you are off to the races, figuratively and literally. Lenatus just up ahead of Serrano right now, as he's trying to get an improvement up in the order. Remember, we need to see lower than a 47.5 to consider that time competitive. What's it going to be from Lenatus as he comes up to the line? 47.9 up to a 47.5 right on cue. Serrano's going to be just behind as well, and he's going to get himself a 47.4, so he's just going to jump ahead. Wildner, despite a really good sector, he just scrapes a bit too much time in the final corner, but it's enough to push him to the top. Payton is going to be his challenger, and you can see there, Payton gets a 46.797. Wildner, a 6.792. Immaculate driving there from the both of them. I think we are going to see these two really come to blows when it comes race time. So Peyton, he's just set the bar that little bit higher. He's got a 46.6 and become officially the fastest time of the night so far. Meanwhile, Eero is going to be into the grass. Unfortunately, he's probably caught himself out on one of the hardest parts of the circuit. That is the Brundle-Nelson combo. Very easy to misjudge, very easy to throw yourself out into the grass or overcommit and take a bit too much of the attack to the curbs, for which you do pay dearly. And more chances here for laps to be completed. Serrano remains in the wake of Linatus. Might even be worth him deliberately backing off and getting himself a bit of space, because it seems like just as soon as he gets some momentum, he's kind of hit in the face with the dirty air of the Nismo up ahead. Doesn't really seem like he's able to go fully into the corners in the way that he'd like. He's not able to really place his car optimally, and in fact he's hemorrhaged 0.2 of a second. And you see right there, he dips off, he leaves about a second's gap in order to give himself some space to Linatus, as he has got a bit of work to do himself. Linatus down in P14. So more times coming up to the line here. The fastest is going to be chopping and changing very soon. Wildner gets a 46.4. What is Peyton going to respond with in about 10 seconds time? In the meantime, Simon Aid up to the line here, needs to get into the 46s. Does just that with a 0.815. More cars are going to be coming through, but first, Peyton, is he going to be on the challenge? Looks like he's dropped a lot of time in Sector 3, and it's going to be an improvement, but not enough to call pole. Big chances being squandered here for a couple of drivers. They're just not able to hold it together. Particularly, it looks like that Sector 3 is proving to be brutal. The high-speed commitment combined with the sharp left hand that is Murray's, and the minimal runoff that you get afforded before you drop into the grass. That's the kicker for a lot of drivers. I think that's what's undoing some of otherwise good runs. 90 seconds on the clock before the gold class starts to make their move and start getting into position. Time is of the essence for all the drivers out here on track right now. The bronze have had their fill, but now it's time for the silvers to start feeling that same pressure. Large squad of cars now making their way up to the line. Serrano is going to be pushing, and once again in the wake of Linatus, but not to the same extent as maybe he was before. Linatus is 0.2 of a second down, where Serrano is 0.4. In fact, no, massive gain on the final corner. He just jumped up half a second on his deltas. Question is, can he link it up into a final lap show? It's a 4.75. He shoots up into P2. Really impressive lap there from the Beamer. Here's Robert Homer. 46.7 could land him in the top 5, but can he pull it all together? Last chances here coming to the drivers. It's a P7 for Homer. Can there be a fight to come? Wildner is going to be still holding on to that P1 with a 46.427. Half a tenth splits him, and Pedro Serrano at the top step. A lot of drivers deciding to call it time. 20 seconds left on the clock means that everyone on track right now is on their final runs. Nobody is within proximity of the start-finish line. So this is final chances. Hopefully we can pull something out of the bag for the likes of Eero, for example. Last we checked on him, he was going out wide of Nelson. He needs to pull really few tenths, if not a half a second out of this lap in order to be in a competitive range. Sad to say, it might not be coming to fruition for him here, as the gold class have now christened the racetrack. He goes a bit too deep into Murray's, and sadly, I don't think this one's to be, and you can see as such, he has conceded into the pit lane. Amby might get a final parting shot at this one here. He's half a second up. Half a second. It all comes down to how he's able to keep it together, keep the bumps and the car stable. Swooping through. Remember, these are the last runs. Serrano comes in. There's no improvement for him there. Best he's going to get P2, as Wildner is going to be taking the top honours out of the silver qualifying. Last on the docket is Robert Homer before he comes to the line. there an improvement? Sadly not. It's 7 milliseconds shy, and with that, the creme de la creme graces the racetrack. It is going to be Rodriguez leading, and all the cars behind him weaving in quick succession as the top brass have now made their way onto the course. Got ourselves quite a set of talents here, and we're going to have some good fun talking about it here. We have 14 gold class runners here tonight. 39 cars are going to be on the track. And here we go. So Grosges, having completed his outlap and the first one out, just ahead of Matthias Lang in his Pixel Pilot's Nismo, is going to be setting the tone, setting the pace. Fastest time of the night is a 46.4. And we did, as predicted, see a lot of the silver class average around the low 47s to high 46s. Good performance from them there, of course, but see how these guys handle the track. We've got the all-stars here tonight. We've got the likes of Lindblom, we've got Gayamar, we have got Larson, we have got the Wiggle, we've got Grosges as seen on your screen right here, we've got Rolf Slenner, and many, many, many others as you can see on your screens. Some real heavy hitters. And if you're worried about the timing board, don't. Remember, these are the outlaps. Real timings will be soon making themselves clear. Here we go. Smooth and steady. Can Grosges link it all together to a smooth and cohesive lap? It's a 46.6 to beat, and it's a 46.1. He jumped straight to the top of the timing boards. My lord, I was not expecting this right out the gate. The gold class cars have impressed so far. Here is Kulin, 46.8 opening lap. There's going to be Björklund next in his Lexus. It's going to be a hopefully big swing at the timing board, but it does invalidate on this one, unfortunately. We've just had Johan Larsson, we've had Lindblom, both coming up to the line and taking quite a lot of pace with them. We have Chris Bourne, interestingly, who is marooned from the rest of the field by quite a substantial margin. And we do have some drivers who have invalidated, so they will be jumping their way up the order. Due course, McNair with a 47.6, Verfart with a 47.7. 48.8 from Chris Bourne as he did go off track, and that means he will have to take another shot. See how Lang is getting on here as the camera panics to catch up. I'll never get tired of that. I really gotta say. I will never get tired of that. Last few laps here for qualifying, and then we will be getting ourselves into the race good and proper. Worth noting, for the race, 60 minutes mandatory pit stop. Got a few drivers who are going to be dealing with a little bit of ballast as well here tonight. For example, Lindblom currently stands on 25 kilos, Grosges with 20, and O'Wiggle with 15. Björklund still is as well with 10 kilos of ballast. So there's a little bit of balancing in play. We've seen the same for silver and bronze too. So Derek Hall has the highest ballast and North as well. Both of them going to be hit with 25 kilos. That has been bringing their times, I think, a wee bit down. Lang with a very impressive opener there. We just had Engdahl come across the line with a 46.2. And that is a friendly face to see Engdahl on the track with a Red Bull livery. Still not used to him not having a monster-themed one. Really not used to that still, even after all this time. And thus, the initial laps mostly under the belt for our drivers. That is where things get a little bit more tense, a little bit more interesting. Grosges, he's on purple, but he just dropped it coming out of Nelson. That's going to lead the baton in the hands of Matthias Lang here. Grosges fully invalidates as he comes out of the edge of the bomb hole and swinging his way through the long right-hander. Lang is going to teeter on the edge of the fastest time. Remember, he just needs to make 2 tenths and he's home free. He's practically skirting the line there as he comes out of Murray's. And is it going to be enough for him as he crosses the line here? It's a 7.87, so 200ths of a second only between the two of them, as Guillemard is going to impress us all with a 45.6. He's completely come out of nowhere in his Lexus and just stormed his way to the top spot of the order here. Björklund gets a time. It's a 46.4, so that's going to put him back on the map. And Wolfslener comes across with a P7 overall, as that is going to be a solid 46.1. Apparently, Eero has been suffering from some technical issues, namely having to recalibrate his brakes after, quote, it didn't want to stop at 60% max brake pressure. So yeah, definitely calibration that you're having to get used to on the fly. That sounds like trouble. To put it diplomatically, that does sound like a pain. Next couple of shots coming through, and curiously 90 seconds means that we have got about 1.5 laps of time remaining for our drivers. Remember, as long as they cross the start-finish line before the timer runs out, that lap is valid. So maybe even the likes of the 443 car, Engdahl, he might be in with a fair shot of getting a second chance. Oh, up to the line. How can he handle Murray's? Looks like he's handled it very well. 45.6 to beat. Could be even in the low 45s. By the way, this lap is going. He's nailed sectors 1 and 3. It's a 45.2. He's gone and pushed that envelope, pushed the ceiling even higher. How are the rest of his teammates going to fare as the Wolfpack outfit continues to perform well? It's a 46.4 to beat, and it becomes a 45.8 here for Björklund. That puts him up into P6. Meanwhile, McNair and his Iron Brew Nismo, he's going to get a solid improvement, pushes himself into the top 10, 46.162. Couple more cars making their way to the line. Engdahl in his Red Bull themed Nismo, he gets a solid 46.3, but it's not an improvement on his priors. Seriously, I'm wanting to see how the likes of Verfart and some of the drivers a bit lower down are doing, because this is looking a bit rough. And Verfart, we just see tucking out of Montreal, outbrakes himself, and that is game over. He knows he's not going to get another chance, so you might as well call it time in the pit lane. With that, the checkered flag falls, ladies and gentlemen. That is game over, and the last laps are now underway for those final cars. Grosges coming to finish up. Lang and O'Wiggle are up on their, or down on their deltas. So they are not going to be realistically setting a new time here tonight, despite setting the perfectly identical time of a .787, which is freaky to think about, actually. Down to the exact millisecond, they have an identical time. I think Lang gets it on merit of having it first. Grosges gets an improvement on time up into P2, but it's not enough to hold position. It is Björklund and other cars now coming up to the line. Here is Kuhlen. 46 flat could put him in to P8, and he gets exactly that. .020. Very impressive here. 45.837 here from Björklund is going to retain and hold tight to his P6 run. Marsh coming up and with a 46.1, but a couple of tenths down. There's not going to be a viable chance for him to gain on this one here tonight. He's, I think, going to be the last one across the line here. And there we have it, folks. So, quali session is done. With that, the top 3 per class have been decided. AMR is going to be our top honours driver here for qualifying. And in the gold class with a 45.257 is a seriously impressive statement to the rest of the field. Meanwhile, Maximilian Grosges in P2, 45.670. A very impressive showing alongside Johan Larsson in P3. Curiously, one of the top drivers of the championship and in championships prior, C. Lindblom, P7. So not his strongest qualifying, but we do know also that he can put in effort to turn it around during the race. Looking at the silver class cars, we have a certain Mr. Wildner to thank for the explosive display of qualifying. It's going to be a 46.427 from the BMW to take the best time out of the middleweights, with Pedro Serrano just behind, half a tenth later, the 46.475. Going into P3, it's going to be James Payton in his McLaren, and continuing to push hard as he stands in P2 of the championship, 46.565. And then finally, with our bronze class drivers, it's going to be a bit of an interesting one because you do have Craig Holmes with a 46.8, but there is a severe outlier, although not as severe as the timings betray, but Bowler got such a strong early run and then never had to improve much further from that. That first initial run was safe fully. So 46.7 is where it's going to be at in terms of pole time. Then it's Holmes and Murphin in second and third. So that's where we're going to call it. But let's go actually have our proper track walk. And let's see what our drivers are. Taking it from the top here. We can see it's going to be Guillemot, as mentioned, in the top step, 45.257, best time of the night. Maximilian Grosges alongside him in his Ferrari in P2. Johan Larsson is going to be in his Lexus in P3. That's going to be alongside the Pixel Pilots Nismo of Matthias Lang, who gets the identical time to his teammate, the 317 Nismo Pixel Pilots, Celeste Loris O'Wiggle. P6 and ending row 3, that's going to be Nicholas Björklund, the 444 Lexus, and just ahead of championship leader David Lindblom in his weight NSX. Nick Coolan completes row 4 in the number 51 McLaren, and then completing your top 10, it's Peter Wolfslener in 196 Ferrari and the number 13 Nismo of Colin McNair, classic Iron Brew livery in P10. Dave Marsh is going to start our row 6 with the number 27 NSX. It's looking suitably marshy, alongside the Red Bull themed Nismo, the number 443 of Jimmy Engdahl. Wildner is your number 87 entry for the BMWs and for Pixel Pilots as well, alongside Pedro Serrano in the 212 Beamer. Chris Bourne is going to be P15 with a 118 Ferrari, and alongside him is the very bright and vibrant James Payton, his 248 McLaren. Another McLaren to adorn the field, number 14, that's going to be to Derek Hall, alongside the Lamborghini in P18, that is Paul Hamby. Completing our top 20, it's going to be Sean O'Neill in the 333 Mustang GT3, and then Wayne Bowler in his Ferrari. Very sharp indeed, as the nose implies. Number 6 McLaren, that's Robert Holm with the Moët and Chandon themed livery, very beautiful indeed. And the 707 Aston Martin, that's Victor Verfart, long ahead of Simon Aid in his 25 Porsche, and Craig Holmes in his 109 Thunderbirds themed Audi. P25 is going to be for Sean Murphin in the 118 McLaren, and alongside Sean Julius, the 993 carboned out Mustang. John Gabbett's in his number 21 BMW, with very nice green accents, And then it's Linatus in number 12 Nismo trim, as it looks like we had a bit of a rough start for some of the drivers getting off the line. Peter Smith, the 113 McLaren, alongside Daniel Groich to complete P30 in a 431 Ferrari. And then it's Mike Foxall, the number 42 Lamborghini. Rich Arscombe just behind, and number 76 Aston Martin. Piero Fisseri, the 992 Porsche, P33. And then Alex North in the number 34 spot, the number 207 Porsche alongside. Final positions here, it's Craig Morrison in the 213 BMW, alongside Stuart Holmes, also in the BMW, with a very fresh yellow and white finish. P37 is going to be Dismukes Desi in his 420 Porsche, and then Niesbet going for a bit of landscaping in his dark blue Nismo, the 331. Finally tailed by Randy Zimmer, who did not set a time out in qualifying, and with a 39 strong grid, that where we call the race and see it. So formation lap now underway as we just head out of the Oggies. 60 minutes strong. Mandatory pit stop required for fuel, but always remember the tyres are an optional choice. See how this field goes. Smoothly does it here at Snetterton. I know I've said it multiple times coming out of quali, but it rings true all the same. You've got to have your ability to keep your throttle control in check, particularly coming out of Nelson, keeping the speed high out through Coram, and looking at Sector 2 just as a whole. I mean, you can only really just see the sharpness that is Nelson and the sausage curves, how much they kink upwards. That gives you a real perspective of the kind of obstacle these drivers are dealing with. A simple track, but it is deviously complex if you get it wrong. It's deviously complex to master anyway. But I really do have a bit of a soft spot for this track. It brings back a lot of memories. I mean, this and the likes of, say, Alton Park, they bring me back to my early PS2 days, where they were featured on games like Toko Race Driver. If anyone knows that, be sure to give us some love in the chat, because that's a bit of a throwback, and game that I've actually replayed fairly recently. But that's besides the point. Right now, the track is about to go hot for the 60 minutes of racing that is Round 7 of Season 12 here at SimSeniors. We are away. The track is hot. Go, go, go. And immediately, that's going to be a gaggle of cars all swarming towards the first corner. And it's going to be Guillemard who gets the initial stamp of authority on the first apex. It's going to be squabbling further back as well as we have Coulon. And dropping down position after position, he darts in. And that's a big slam on the back of Björklund there. The two are completely off the circuit, having to quickly recover. But what's this? Coulon is going completely backwards, trying to get to the back of the queue the fastest rather than rotating on the grass. He fully compromised his re-entry to the racing surface there, as things get quickly very hectic. Multiple cars now heading into Agostini, all in single file as they try to keep themselves under control. Minor bumps, minor contact. You see Sean O'Neill trying to push hard as he can, and he just can't get the grip down in the way that he like. Meanwhile, Sean Julius, he's going to be on the defense from Verfart, as you can see the Aston Martin bumping back and forth, trying to get some angle. The best way he can look to do that is just putting relentless pressure on the Mustang that's ahead of him. Lang is going to be up in P4 as well. He's got a wiggle on his tail, but they can maybe work together. They are teammates, they are cut from the same cloth, and they are cut from the same millisecond if qualifying is anything to go by. These two are perfectly paired to take the fight up to the top three. That's a Wolfpack dominance of the podium as far as gold is concerned, so I would not put it past them. More squabbling and fighting. Murphin and Smith go side by side out through Nelson, and if there's one thing we learned from qualifying is that going side by side is a non-starter, complete non-starter. So it was going to be eventually one car conceding. Looks like that car was a prevailing, and Here is going to be Vasuri, unfortunately hemorrhaging positions out through Cordham, as even Foxhall's going to take a bite of the cherry out of Murray's. It's a frenetic first lap, but one thing's for sure, the drivers are absolutely leaving nothing on the table. I mean, here's Engdahl as he heads his way into Montreal. He commands the apex, he commands control of the corner, and with where his car's placed, the door being open, he gets exactly that on Wildner. Bourne might even take a bit of a swing, seeing that the opportunity is open and seeing that Wildner is a bit more pliable of a defender than maybe he first realised. Opting to keep the peace over defending aggressively, that could play to his advantage later on. Looking at where the grass and the wing is greener, here is Lenatus on the defence from Paul Hamby, going straight through Agostini, and the Lambo is really just seeking any kind of gap he can make on the Nismo. Watch as he's trying to dart his car into the apexes, practically snap at the chance to get a bit of a run. Looks like we have had a car off the track. That is Derek Hall, the number 14. He spun out, and it looks like he is completely out of the running as he has returned to the pit lane and used quantum powers to be able to get himself into P1. So, yeah, our timing boards are certainly having a field day with that one. Rest assured, though, it will equalise eventually. We will see what these drivers have. The field is getting very much into a rhythm. Look at Lindblom right here. He's still challenging. He wants to get that early jump. Remember, started P7, and he needs to get up to the top. He is defending on his championship as it currently stands. He's got a little bit of a points cushion. He has got himself 10 points against Grosges, but Grosges is currently stood in P2. So that points cushion will not last if he remains here. Just biding his time, and I think that's honestly the best move. He doesn't want to go too overzealous, and he doesn't want to attack too hard, as burning himself that early and burning too much of his resources that early, whether that's scrubbing your tyres, and oh, big catch there. That could have been a disaster, but he does manage to keep it together. Sadly, it looks like we can't say the same for Mr. Julius, as there has been major contact and cars sideways on the course. Everyone taking that caution as they slowly file their way through the apex. In fact, we need to wind the clocks back a bit because it looks like there was quite a serious accident. So looking out and seeing what these cars are up to. This is the helicopter cam from Peter Smith, just about half a lap ago. It looks like there was contact between, I think that is Bowler and Julius, and there is Smith getting caught in the crossfire. As you can see there, Bowler is on the track, but not unscathed. But if we wind those clocks even that little bit further, we will see. This is going to be from Bowler's perspective. So it looks like there was a rear end from Julius. Let's take a look at his wing. So this is going to be coming out of Hamilton into the Oggies, and oh, yep, just outbrakes himself. And that is as good as done. So he does recover into P36. Hopefully the damage is not substantial. But the same cannot be said for some of the other racers out there tonight. Looks like Julius has fully retired from the event as a result. So we are down now to 37 racers. We're not even 10 minutes in. This has become a war of attrition very quickly. where we had a little bit of an altercation with Sean Murphin, number 180. He dropped a lot of time very fast, and he's currently feeling the pressure. He goes quite deep into Brundle as a means to defend, and looks like a concertina effect as Foxall and Murphin, they both getting a bit of a bump. Hero is going to be inheriting a position out of the chaos as the one who bumped the Lamborghini from behind. Hopefully a little bit of a chance to breathe for some of the drivers here, but no such patience can be afforded to the likes of O'Wiggle. Now O'Wiggle is going to be on the same as Liam Blom in terms of team. They're both Pixel Pilots affiliated, but make no mistake, everyone is out for themselves. This is still a Drivers' Championship, and if we had team outfits playing too much of a part, well then, get a little bit of interesting. So you can see O'Wiggle actually isn't really doing much to try and defend. He's sure taking the apexes and sort of holding on to them, but he's not actually going too hard. He's not going too aggressive. Meanwhile, we can see a bit of a different story between Vasuri and Foxall. Foxall gets a run in the inside. Was previously ahead of him, so I think just trying to retake and reclaim originally his. As they make their way out of Williams, Hiro is going to tuck to the right, try and see if he can get a bit of an overtake. Hoping that he's got a bit more top end in the Porsche than the Lamborghini can muster. Gets a bit of a squeeze. Marsh is going to be looking up the inside as well. A little bit dicey, but everyone holds firm, holds together. Liam Blom managing to get himself up into P5 as we have seen a bit of a question mark around the future of one certain car. It's the number 776 driver. That is Lang. So let's actually change back. Let's turn the clocks back for a moment. This is going to be Lang's perspective. Why we now see him in P9 as opposed to where he was originally in P3. So Lang, unfortunately, just overcooking it. Luckily, no major incident and dodging a bullet as a Liam Blom sort of sweeps through on the outside. Dodging a bullet for sure, but currently is down in P9, and that has given Liam Blom access to the top 5. Liam Blom is going to be hot on the heels of O'Wiggle still. Not really getting a chance to bite at the position. Might be a little bit nervous in O'Wiggle's position because yes, you two are teammates, but that does mean you acutely know each other's driving styles. There is no room for error here, because you can capitalize on each other's mistakes all that more easily when you know the opponent that you are up against. One thing I will say to the field at large, and particularly I signpost this one to Mr. Gamer, currently standing in P5. If he had no penalties, he'd be in the lead of the championship. But as the highest penalty scorer with 32 points in this championship so far, actually no, I lie. Verfart has got 40 points, so I stand corrected on that one and can only apologise. But as the second highest penalty scorer in this championship in P5, such a high position, gotta keep the nose clean from this point on. Any more penalty points and that will be asking for trouble. There will simply be no room for it. Not in your points and not in your future races, because if you run out of penalty points to burn, you are in serious trouble. You are going to be really stuck. you'll get hit with a race ban. And then you can say any chance of a high position in championship goodbye. Because I do believe that that race ban is independent of the championship. So it's not going to fall under drop rounds. It is a straight race ban. One result is just fully nullified. Major hit to the points. No matter how you slice it. Few drivers have found their equilibrium now. They're not in any immediate rush. And more than anything, I think it's simple. Doesn't need any immediate attack, but just build up the pressure. Let them make their own mistakes. Unfortunately, looks like North has gone for a bit of a landscaping mission. I'm curious to see how he ended up so far out from the field as to cut the entirety of the rest of Coram and Murray's. Let's jump on board here. Let's jump on board with the helicopter. So this is going to be heading up into... Yeah, no, so where we are... Oh my, this is interesting. Wait, so that wasn't the actual incident that we were actually looking for. So let's wind those clocks back a little bit more. So this is now coming out of the bomb hole into Coram. So far, so good. Looks like a little bit of a wobble for the green McLaren. Just taking a bit too much speed and, yeah, goes completely on a landscaping mission here. Completely on a landscaping mission. So, never mind. North might be looking at dropping that lead out of tonight's round. He does have, I think, the biggest cushion out of all of the championships with, I believe that is 31 points. So a heck of a points cushion, but by the time we get to the end of the championship, that's going to be looking much narrower. O'Neill peeking down the inside as he tries to challenge on Serrano. The P2 of the Silver Championship. Stakes are high. Stakes are high, so are the speeds. Making their way out through Palmer here. Get the proximity as much as he can as he heads into the second sector of the course. He's trying to see if he can get that purple BMW to outbrake himself, because using the acceleration of the Mustang, he'd be able to size up a good overtake into, say, Brundle. This is going to be O'Neill coming hot. Amby as well could be chasing down on Linatas, but we'll check in on those two momentarily. Holmes has done a massive job in handling this race on the bronze side of things, with a certain bowler out of the running, at least for now. Currently stood in the pits. With bowler out of shot from the collisions that he's faced, this is Holmes' race to lose. And he's got over 2 seconds on the next closest car. Not under any major threat. He might do very well here. In a similar light, you got Aid, Peyton, Werfart. Werfart is in a bit of a pickle here. The only gold class driver in this set, and he has got multiple positions in order to make it up to the rest of his group and start earning the real points. Got himself a bit of a challenge ahead of him, so the question is, how cleanly will he be able to execute on some of these overtakes? I have a little bit of doubt, just because things can get a little bit rough around the edges with that Aston Martin in play, and that points penalty does not lie. does tell a bit of a story, and unfortunately for the Aston, it's not a favourable one. But he does try and sneak it down the inside. Unsuccessfully, but sometimes you can throw some dummy moves in the hopes of gaining pressure and leverage on the opponent. Smoothly does it for these races here. Verva is going to get in once again, very close, and challenge on Peyton. Top end of the field has mostly equalized. No one's making any immediate moves, at least not for a bit. The action is right here. There's Verva continuing to put on some massive pressure. And you can almost feel the urgency through just the steering alone. He's got to get back up to the rest of the field. He's got to get back and caught up. And do it fast. Luckily, these are really good positions or conditions for driving here. We've got a lovely track. It's 20 degrees ambient, but 28 degrees track surface. That's going to mean that the tarmac is nice and grippy, but cooling is still not going to be an issue. It's the perfect mix for optimal driving. Seeing that being put into play here as Hamby on the back of Linnatus coming out of Palmer. Gonna briefly take a sneak peek at the position to come, P18. Will be a big chance for him here to challenge on some position if he can keep things together. Meanwhile, we just saw at the back of the timings that is going to be McNair conceding a position out from a poor Nelson corner. It's going to be Wolfslander quickly being right there to capitalize. Lang might even be able to do the same. Able to take the edge off here, but McNair sort of sneaking a look at the apex nonetheless. Lang is going to be lying in wait, however. Peyton heads into the pits on his 11th lap. So pit times around here, they're going to be fairly varied. Pit lane isn't that massive, so you're not going to see as long of a time as, say, Zolder. It's similar length itself, but you don't have as much lead or break points. You don't have a massive alternate route in order to be able to pit stop. And he's still on the back of Linnatus, but is he going to commit for a move here? He's not going for it. Spite. Here the thought goes. Does not see to it that he attacks. Okay, you're looking at about a minute pit stop time here at Snetterton. And it looks like that is something that Peyton has followed to a T. That early pit stop might be the play. We'll have to only wait and see once we get into the major changeover. But we are coming up to the halfway point. We're over 20 minutes into the race, and things are looking good for a few different races on the track. Leenblom is going to actually be dropped back a bit as a Wiggle has really found his footing. In fact, he's posting better fastest times than Leenblom right now, albeit not by much. And we see a little bit of drivers starting to push a bit too much in some cases, getting impatient. That's when you see them start to arc out wide and bump over the curbs. This track does not really have runoff. You either have curb or you have grass. Those are your two options. Pick them wisely, unless you get lucky and you place your wheels on the alternate. Now, pitting outside of the normal rhythm is always a risk, and per sources, this track is a bit of a tire eater. This track can be very brutal, and with the amount of sharp direction changes, I can see why. There is a lot of corner connected to straight rather than flowing shapes into one another. You get some longer corners, a lot of longer right-handers, in fact. But sharp direction change does put some wear on your tires, and that will have severe degradation effects. Being in chat say, quote, 2 seconds per lap lost over the last 7 to 8 laps. Do say 20 plus 40 minute stints. Yeah, that is quite a dramatic fall off. I guess the only hope in the case of a certain James Payton is that he's able to hold on to position by the time that he gets to that fall off stage. I think that'll be his best bet from a strategic perspective. Best one he's got. See how the rest of the field handles the pit stops and the timing of such. As we had a few more cars head in on this lap. Ian Blom in particular is one of note, alongside Lang and Marsh, Hamby, Eade, Payton, Bowler, the other cars who have come in. There's going to be Verfart though, holding that apex and challenging on the side of Homer. Affording a bit of space where he can, but manages to get up ahead and confirm the overtake, making his way out of Williams. Homer's going to try his best to keep proximity, but can't quite do so. Ian Blom is going to be P23 as the leader of the pitted cars. And as we have seen time and time again, we now have a tale of two races. We have a tale of two racers battling out at the top, just in different segments of their campaign. As we have O'Wiggle and Engdahl now making their way into the pit lane. Looks like we have some brief local yellows coming out for a couple of cars. I mean, Coolan, he's got a local incident warning that has popped up, but McLaren's looking a little bit worse for wear, I gotta say. Not looking the healthiest. He'll come into the pit soon. About 55 seconds is your ideal pit time, your pit target. That will be your benchmark. Anything below that is a nice bonus. You see 52 seconds, I think is the fastest time of the night so far from a certain Matthias Lang. Looks like we had a little bit of trouble there for Daniel Greutsch as he went a little bit skew-iff, shall we say. Let's get a bit of a replay on exactly what happened there. Bit of a play-by-play, so we come into Riches. Smoothly does it through the first corner. Now he comes out to the back of, I think that's O'Wiggle there. And, oh, yeah, so looking like a double tap, unfortunately, from Coolan. That has knocked him down a few fair positions. Sad to see it. Big Morrison quickly sweeping over back onto the racing surface. While Payton and Foxall have a little bit of a back and forth. Maybe a bit of contact as we head into the second sector fully. Gabbert is on the back of Liam Blom, but remember these two are on fundamentally separate races. Liam Blom's going to have no problem pulling time by this point. We're coming up to the 30-minute mark, the halfway mark, folks, and with that we are seeing a good chunk of cars now head in. We have Serrano and Wildner joining the rest of drivers who have pitted in at this point. Looks like we have a Wiggle a few crucial seconds ahead, as he has taken his pit stop and currently leads just ahead of Coolan. We have Visuri, who has spun out of his own volition or his own power. Has spun out coming out of Riches, and I think this is one of those cases where you're seeing his calibration issues rear their ugly head. I did say earlier that he's had to fully recalibrate his setup following an issue of stopping power, and that may have had some knock-on. Local yellow come out for the number 87. That was for Wildner too. Generally getting a little bit dicey for a few different cars on this circuit, but such as racing, such as the changeover period, it gets a little bit frenetic at this point. Everyone's vying for the same advantage. Only so many drivers can profit out of a pit stop. Your timing, your actual time spent, where you come out in the field are everything. Hamby is going to be getting a quick and simple overtake on the likes of SIMseniors. There is a local yellow coming for Daniel Groch as he looks like he once again has a brief offage of the circuit. Grosges and Wolfslenner are going to be heading into the pits. That is going to leave Guillemar in a pocket of his own. We're going to see those two joined by Craig Holmes in the bronze class, and that is going to be a bit of a change up for those guys, as John Gabbert is going to inherit the race lead for bronze as a result. Arscombe's not going to be too far behind either. Heading out very sharpish. AMR has a bit of room to breathe with a whole 9 seconds between him and Johan Larsson. A bit of crucial breathing room, which is, I think, what he needs right now. Unfortunately, Coolan has gone very deep there out of Montreal. And that is going to concede him not one, but 2 positions, as Wolfslenner is going to get an easy chop up of the spot. Not really got a good re-entry, so I think that Coolan taking the mature choice there and yielding the position before it turned into an accident. Defending from such a narrow spot when you're on even keel is a very dicey game to play. Arscombe now on the back of Coolan. Now Coolan, you can see, has got a bit of damage. That will have been both from earlier and also in part with his collision to some of the other cars. There is Arscombe and Lang going toe-to-toe. As Lang is going to be quickly darting up ahead, and Coolan's going to be having himself jumped. He gets a chance to head into Brundle, confirmed out of Nelson, pulled a gap even further on, out of the bomb hole. AMR is going to be in and out of the pits, so he's going to be in P5. McNair is the one who actually holds the lead of the race now. Quite an interesting development in. Niesbet is going to be heading into the pits. There's Bourne, O'Neill, Gabbert, Coolan, Niesbet. All 5 of those drivers headed now. Bruce Bourne just comes out of the pit lane. A 57 pit stop. Solid time, if a tiny bit slow. A couple of crucial seconds there being lost. 52.7 is the fastest pit time that we've seen. In fact, no, 52.5. That's courtesy of Loris O'Wiggle. Margins here. Verano on the back Is he? Dismiquez there. He's no doubt going to do his trademark trick of extending that first stint as much as humanly possible. Riding the wave of early position. All in good fun as well. You can deviate from the strategy as much as you like. There is no mandatory pit window. There is no forced pit window in this race, this series. Ordnance still chasing down. Looks like we've had a lot of cars now return to the racing surface. There is going to be Smith. There is going to be Coolin. They're all coming out of the pit lane now. The Bowler is just behind Coolin here in the number 51. Bowler might have a chance for a little bit of a recovery if he can play his cards right. Dismiquez is going to be dropping positions, as no doubt his grip is going to be suffering. Hasn't quite got the grip that he needs. I think that could be a seriously dangerous thing here at Snetterton, as this track, at the best of times, can be described as a slippery slope. Once you start losing time, you can't stop losing it until you do something drastic. As we see multiple cars coming out of the pit lane now, as Björklund, Homer, Zimmer, Arscombe, just to name a few. Going to be coming out to Sweet. Going to be coming out with one thing on the mind: a freshly renewed drive to win. I am looking forward to seeing what these drivers do now that most of the cars on the track have headed into the pits. The only exception, in fact, being two. We have Dismiquez, as we expected, but an outlier here, Mr. McNair. Colin McNair is our holdout. He is our gold class holdout, the number 13. 19 laps deep, no new tyres, no fuel, no pit stop at all. What a turn of events, folks. What has got into the mind, strategy-wise, of Mr. Ironbrew here? What a development. One that I'm very excited to see the outcome of. So, to take stock of our top three from each class so far. First place, technically, right now it's McNair. If we want to go with actual empirical position, so independent of pit stops, it's going to be Guillemard in P1, closely followed by Grosges, about 4 seconds away in P2, and then Lorenzo Wiggle in P3. Looking at the silver class, it's going to be Pedro Serrano who's taking the top honours right now, and that is going to be followed a couple of seconds later by Felix Waldner, and about a second and a half behind, it's going to be Sean Neal. In similar fashion, Dizzy has got technically the lead of the race, but if we are going with equal rules and we are discounting the fact that he has not taken his pit stop, the lead of bronze is going to go to Craig Holmes in first place, followed closely by Craig Morrison and Rich Arscombe in second, third. Although closely is a bit of a strong word, because there's about 5 seconds between these two and about 20 between Morrison and Holmes. Is he losing more time here as Björklund and Linatus both get a bit of a quick overtake? McNair remains out as well, 20 laps deep. He's certainly pushing the limits of his strategy, let me tell you. Really is learning to push the limits of this strategic game. But for a game to be played, someone has to win and someone has to lose. I don't know which side of it McNair's going to come out on. So, coming up to 20 minutes left. Strategies mostly settled. Positions mostly fixed. There are of course going to be some chops and changes and some exceptions, but this is the final phase of the race. This is where now, everyone having completed their pit stop, the drivers are focusing on one simple thing: bringing their points home. Never a perfect race. To expect such would be folly. Drivers have to ensure they keep it together long enough to get to the end of that hourglass and to say we made it. Looks like we had a bit of a moment with Desi there. Yellow flags coming out for a couple of cars at this point in time, as things have taken a bit of a drastic spin. Ambi is trying to catch up a little bit here to Neil, but it doesn't seem to get the proximity. You don't have the proximity, you don't have the position. No way you can size up the attack. Lindblom is a driver that we have seen perform very well thus far, but tonight doesn't look like his night. 1.5 seconds splits him and Johan Larsson in 4th place. You can see him in the foreground, but he can't quite turn that foreground into background. He hasn't been able to really recapture the pace that he's needed. I'm just wondering if Lindblom can kick it up a gear in these final 20 minutes, if he's got it in him. Maybe he's playing a bit conservatively for now. You can argue the same for the others up in the field, though. For example, Grosges, he's got a solid P2. If he stands with these results, there's a good chance that he'll be able to take Lindblom's spot in the championship. 10 points deficit is nothing to scoff at. And P2 to P5 is for 9 points. Drop rounds inclusive, this might be what turns some of the tables. Or at least puts these two right within striking distance, if nothing else. Looks like we are seeing a bit of a chop back and forth. Björklund and Linatus. The two of them going side by side, going ham, and let's see what these two make of it. So Linatus, just having conceded the position to Björklund, has a chance to go on the attack, but needs to do so quickly. Any more dilly-dallying, Dave Marsh, a second away, will be able to catch up quick. Marsh, we know, is a pretty fast and formidable driver, and his fastest time is half a second up on the likes of Linatus. So hasn't got the pace on his side in the way that he's hoping. Lindblom, meanwhile, has actually managed to catch up quite substantially. Larsson had a brief hiccup, shall we say. Had a brief hiccup. And his loss has been Lindblom's gain.
Björklund might even have pulled on Linatus and is now, in fact, chasing on the likes of Simon Eade. There is going to be quite a bit of work. Blom is going to be chasing down on Larson regardless. P4 is in his grasp. He is going to be into the pits finally. Saw McNair doing so a couple of laps ago. He has been put into P8, so might have actually not been too bad of a strategy call. He's currently P2, well, 2 positions up on his original. It looks like we have a local yellow. That is going to be for Craig Niesbet, P35. Remember, folks, we started on 39 cars. 39 cars here tonight, and we are down to 35. Hopefully, if Niesbet's temperament is strong enough to survive 20 minutes, we'll stay at 35. If not, we could be looking at 34. Dismakez is going to be coming out of the pit lane about 50 seconds later. In fact, 48 seconds. Very impressive. Fastest pit stop of the night. But P34 nonetheless. Just a little bit further ahead of Niesbet, who we've just tuned in with, but going back further up. Liam Blom, once again, you do have a little bit of traffic, as I believe that is Alex North who pulls out of the way. Liam Blom is on the chase and chasing confidently. Not making the swing yet, but he doesn't have to. I think he's just biding his time in the same way that Larson isn't going too aggressive on the defense because he knows Liam Blom. These two have challenged each other season in and season out. While we did see a bit of a dip in performance in prior seasons, Johan came into the scene, he came in his McLaren, and he really brought the pressure in. Only hope is he's able to hold on to that and hold true. Larson is going to be on the defensive. Here comes Liam Blom. He pokes the nose, but it's closed out. Comes out Nelson. He does get a good run, but he can't confirm it. It's Coram going a little bit wider than the NSX here, but you can see Liam Blom is determined to get that position. He tries to go a bit narrower. He tries to get the space however he can, and he knows that time is running out. In the same light, here comes Linatus onto the back of Marsh, who is on the back of Eade. So, a triple header here as we head down the Bentley Straight into Brundle. Going under the bridge there. A little bit of a wobble from both the cars ahead has given him a chance to pull in. Will there be enough room for him to attack? Just on board right now with Linatus, seeing what it's looked like from his perspective. Trying to keep the car as close to gripped as possible. Keeping it very close. Marsh is going to be there as well. Looks like a little bit of a box in. Marsh has got nowhere to go, and he's got no choice but to attack on the apex. He almost squeezes out Simon Eade for the position, and in the end is going to get up ahead. Now it's Linatus' turn. He pokes the nose into Montreal. He has claim of the apex. He's going to get the power on as soon as he can, but it's a little bit of a wavering at the exit. That's going to give Eade the position back. Patience is a virtue, and one that has been exploited to great effect. Meanwhile, back up at the front, Liam Blom is still chasing on the back of Larson, and briefly looked like he was getting very close. Very close indeed. Fortunately, Larson has just dropped the ball. We were hoping for a fight coming out into the first corner, but Larson's just overcooked it. He goes out too far into Murray's. He outbrakes himself. And that is going to be all Lindblom needs. This is what we were saying about the subtle pressure, the build-up. And that is proof in the pudding. Lindblom didn't go hyper-aggressive. He waited his turn. Eventually, patience was rewarded. Meanwhile, in the same breath, here is Lang attacking on McNair. Although the two of them have been indicated to have had contact with each other. I wonder if we can wind the clocks back and pin that down precisely. Going into the first corner. I'm going to jump aboard the helicopter and see exactly what's up. The two drag racing each other. Looks like they just briefly squeezed in and touched each other going through the first corner. Yep, so you can see, bit of a slide, and unfortunately that is a loss of grip there for McNair. That was sadly a big misstep. Here's Larson now 1.6 seconds behind Lindblom. Goes to show that once a driver gets the pace up and goes all in, if given the room to breathe, they can absolutely fly away. Lenatus and Eid going to be fighting each other, with Lenatus now in the power play position. Close. Watch him. Larson, he hasn't really been able to recover in the way that he's hoped. Usually in these situations you want to keep within at least a second to have a chance for a bit of recourse when it comes your turn, but don't think that luxury is one afforded to Larson right now. I don't think that's one that he's been able to achieve, sadly. Problems may continue. Here is Homer on the back of Eid as Lenatus has pulled a gap. Eid is now in the crosshairs of the number 20. The number 6 car in P20. He goes a little bit defensive before darting back to the racing line. I think that was a smart move there. He kind of covers off the initial attack position and sort of forces Homer to go back and retreat to the standard racing line. Direction north with a sort of brief local flag, so that white flag there. Here is going to be Homer though, going for another attack, this time straight onto the apex as they go through Agostini. Question is, who's going to have the pace by the time they come out of the corner? Looks like it doesn't matter, as Homer is going to box off Eid and is going to drop him down significantly in terms of time to boot. Peyton might even be in with a chance of getting a freebie position on this one if this is going to be how the pattern goes. Smoothly does it. Smoothly does it. Remember, it's got to be a big swing here at this point, because we've only got about 10 minutes left. Only got about 10 minutes left here, folks. Peyton is on the back of Eid right now. It's a big fight. Now this sort of quartet of cars right here, Lenatus through to Peyton, these drivers have been running in very close proximity for a very long time, and all it takes is one pin drop and I think the trigger will be pulled. A big old squabble. I mean, Björklund is going to be in Hamby's coattails. and has been putting on some strong pressure for quite a while now. Saying Hamby has been handling and holding his ground for a good little bit. I mean, Hamby's gained 3 positions on his initial. Like Verfart is going to gain 1 spot too, as Serrano, I think he's got that flag wave. I think driving a little bit slow. I think, yeah, say driving slow is what that sort of flag represents. Bowler is going to be chasing down on Alex North. A little bit further adrift. North is sitting in P7 right now. Bowler just overshooting Montreal. Although, actually, I believe that was intentional. So that was an intentional overshoot to allow the space for the higher class cars who are lapping. So, never mind. I rescind my previous statement. Yokeland and Hamby going to trade places coming out of that final corner and into the next lap here, having just finished lap 29. The ball is in the Lamborghini's court. He's already feeling the pressure. You can see the shake and the wiggle as he drops a tyre into the dirt. There's a high-risk play waiting to be made here. The question is Hamby going to go all in? Or is he going to focus on keeping a clean run to the end of the race? He goes a little bit deep into Agostini there. A bit too much push. They may be outpacing himself. Bowler, Foxall running very close together as things finish out. There's McNair on the back of Lang. At the same time, there is O'Neill on the back of Serrano. We'll try and keep on things as best as we can simultaneously. O'Neill briefly peeking at a chance for Serrano, but doesn't quite get a bite of that particular fruit. McNair could be in with a chance to go on the attack for P7, but can he stomach the overtake against Lang? We have 5 minutes left, which gives us about 3.5 to 4 laps worth left of running. And it looks like we will be seeing ourselves go as far as lap 34 tonight. Given that the leaders are about to cross the line for the 31st time. Laps averaging about 1 minute and 45. A 3-minute 30 stint for 2. And naturally, finish up the laps here. 3 laps more from this point onwards. Now, trying to keep his proximity, but it hasn't quite panned out. Let's see how O'Neill is doing by comparison. He's still within that half-second margin, and in fact, there's going to be an opening as Serrano goes a bit too deep out of Williams onto the grass. Minimal time loss, but minimal gap. That's all the ticket that he needed. And he's dang well taking it. North and Bowler running pretty hot here. North, of course, needs to get this one going in his favour because he has got a championship to defend. Defending with his life right now. Groich is going to be his sort of main rival as far as points is concerned, along with Randy Zimmer. And they're luckily only a couple of spots ahead of him, so the damage is minimal, but that's not really the point. You've got Arscombe as well, further ahead of him. And you've got a Bowler behind, but not necessarily his own fault. I think things could have gone very differently had that first couple of laps panned out without any chaos or shenanigans. Bit of a slide there from Linatas out of Montreal. That could be an opening here for Homer to capitalise on. Well, looks like Homer is going to go for a bit of a switch back here. He initially aims left, but then peels to the right side. It's going to be a big swing for him, but it doesn't land. It can't land. He doesn't get the leverage that he needs out of the corner. Can't get the leverage that he needs. That is, she wrote, Sam. Penultimate laps here for the competition. While just making his way through out of Hamilton. Doggies. Chasing behind W's. I do believe that is... Let's have a look. Craig Morrison in the 213 BMW. Apologies for the buggy shadows. Trying to get a fix at the moment, but really, despite a couple of graphic settings tweaks, so far those fixes ain't coming. Might be a case of just turning off motion blur along, despite the effect that it has on the video. Peyton might be catching up to Ede. Bowler is going to be overtaken once again by Alex North following a failed attempt at position, to the point where Foxall might be getting involved himself. Chris Bourne on the hunt for Engdahl's spot. And there you go, you can hear it over race control. The leader is on the final lap. Give it all you can. And that's all that any of us can do. Just give it all you can. AMR though, starting his final lap off 7.5 seconds ahead of Grosges. What an impressive showing. Now, there have been, say, a few rounds where one driver has just laid waste to the rest of the field, for lack of a better term. That's not a disservice of the rest of the field, but where one driver has just been so focused, so laser focused on their objective, on the mission of the race, that nothing has been able to stop them. And I think Guillemard tonight is the one in that seat. He stands much further ahead of Grosges. He's capitalized on Lindblom's poor qualifying, and he currently is going to be gaining big time out of this one too, because he hasn't done anything that would warrant penalties either, at least not what we've seen on the cameras. There haven't been any incidents that are warranting of such action. We do have, unfortunately, a last-minute collision, it looks like, with Oscom and Gabbert. Things have, unfortunately, not panned out for them, but as he crowns the final corner, Guillemard comes up to the line. Congratulations to the 208 driver, as he has won Snetterton round of SimSeniors Season 12 for the gold class. Not too far behind, there is Grosges in P2, and taking a firm crown with the second place spot. Loris O'Wiggle is going to be your third place runner, sort of flying the 317 Nismo all the way to the bronze trophy. At least for this group. We still have two more groups of racers to consider, ladies and gentlemen, and the next one on the docket is going to be Sean O'Neill. A driver who has flown under the radar for a good chunk of today, but I think through a mix of early lap chaos, determination and resilience has held his own, and emphatically so, to score himself the best result that one possibly can. And with that is going to be a firm and impressive position, P1, alongside the P2 of Mr. Serrano and the P3 of Wildner in BMW. Finally, looking to the bronze class, Craig Holmes, take a bow. Driver who has done a massive job of tonight's round, and in that Audi has worked some real wonders as he crosses the line, winner in P22, alongside Craig Morrison, who has returned to the pits, and Rich Arscombe in third position as well. So that is timing done, folks. Unfortunately, not everyone made it home. We did have to say goodbye to Mr. Coolin, Sean Murphy, and then also Sean Julius and Eric Hall. So few drivers not quite making it. So Hall and Julius bowing out pretty early. Murphy not too far behind that. And then Coolin around the halfway point of the race. But that is all we have time for tonight. It has been a pleasure as always. And you don't want to go too far, because next week we take ourselves over to none other than Alton Park. We teased it at the start. It's a British or UK doubleheader. And next week is going to be the second half of that pairing. That is going to be Alton before the Nürburgring and Red Bull Ring to finish the season off at the end of March. I thank you all once again for having me. My name's been Ben Sapsford. It's been a pleasure to broadcast for you here tonight, and we will see you next week in Alton Park. But for now, folks, take care. As always, stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening,